hello there. Getting people asking me about Rife machines and how to use them and so forth. There's a lot of different kinds of Rife machines, and I would like to just talk about the one I use and that I like, which is we get into later, and there's a lot of technicals we could talk about, but first of all I'm going to demonstrate it so you get an idea. Most Rife machines on the market that I've seen, they're kind of complicated to use. This is probably the simplest and the best that I found, and you know, I've done a lot of research into it. The guy that designed this and built it specifically, builds them custom made, is a physicist and really understands how they work. So, and I've looked inside and it's pretty complex. But anyway, it's been very effective in helping me, and I have to be careful not to prescribe or to say it cures anything, because I'll get in trouble with the FDA. You can't make health claims like that. So we'll take it step by step. But anyway, in this thing, I want to just show you how easy this is to use. And I've used it for all kinds of things. Let's see if you can hear this. I'm going to put it on high frequency. There's basically two settings, which makes it very simple. See, this is the high setting. You might be able to hear the ultrasound. Yeah, it's kind of going up and away. I hope this cheap little microphone can pick this up. If it can't, well, okay, now I just went into ultrasound, which is sound above the normal hearing range, and that's probably about 16,000 cycles per second. It's between 16 and 20 for most people. As you get older, you lose higher frequencies. But anyway, the point is that the sound frequencies are what actually do the work. And I'm going to get into that later in another video. But essentially, it's got a timer in here, which usually a normal cycle treatment is about 45 minutes average. And during this 45-minute cycle, it goes through from zero right up into millions and millions of cycles per second, which is basically covers most of the frequencies. In fact, all of the frequencies that you can possibly imagine. Thing that I like about this is that, like I said, most of these Rife devices try to hit specific frequencies. You know, you dial them in, you try to lock it in, which is all well and good if you know what the frequency is, which is highly theoretical. Not everybody has the right frequency, and many times these little critters mutate, you know, especially cancer. But they're notorious for fast evolution and being able to evolve. So you can't always get the frequency right. You know, you might have to go a little this way, a little that way. This solves that because it goes through all the frequencies in a very slow scan. And it's automatic, so you don't have to worry about it. It gets a lot of things you don't even know are there, because, well, let's face it, our bodies are just filled with all kinds of subclinical infections we get from little injuries and surgeries and dental things that never go away. They just kind of hide there. This is a well-known fact, you know, especially in the teeth. There's most people in the United States have a lot of infections in their gums and inside your teeth, because they just don't take care of their teeth, and because we don't have very good health. And this affects the rest of our health. All right, so there's a low frequency too, and that's, I don't know if you can hear that, but it starts off pretty slow and it goes up very slowly. This catches a different set of microbes. Theoretically, and you got to speak theoretically, the whole idea is to catch these microbes and basically shake them to death through the resonant frequency. And this works the same way like if you have a piano and you hold down the sostenuto pedal and you sing an A, all the A's in the piano will ring. That's due to a thing called sympathetic vibrational resonance. Well, this uses the same principle. When this sound hits the frequency of the cell wall of these bacteria and viruses and so forth, it starts oscillating at a frequency that they can't handle, and they just bust. And this is, we've seen this under the microscope, right? Watched this under a microscope. There's some videos out on the internet of this. Yeah, you can hear it on the radio feedback probably. But basically, this is just ultrasound. It's not electromagnetic, it's basically just ultrasound. but it does have some overtones that affect the little radio. So anyway, you can hear that kind of going up. Now the idea behind this is you put it as close to the problem as you've got. Like once I had a boil under my arm, and put it on there, and one treatment was enough to knock it out. But I can only speak from my personal experience. I'm not prescribing. I've used it on a lot of things, from teeth to generally what the general application would be to start with is to put it in a place where you get the most blood circulation fastest. Like for instance, between the navel and the pubic hair, on the bare skin, put it underneath, you're going to get, most of the blood goes through the body within less than a minute. So you're going to get all the blood that way when passed. So you can leave it there for the scan period and clean up your blood pretty real good. The other place would be where you could get a lot of it would be on your neck, your carotid artery. I'm not going to say what it's good for because that's not what this tape is about, but you can put it directly on the spot, but it also goes through the entire body. I mean, the frequencies penetrate the entire body, basically. It's just that it's more effective the closer it is. Okay, so the other thing is you've got a pause button in case you have to go to the bathroom or answer the telephone, and you've got a cool down button, which I never use, but sometimes if you put it someplace like, where there's not a lot of circulation, it might warm up and it might get a little uncomfortable, so you just put it on cool down. Very simple. So basically you're going to get this scan, this either on the low or the high, it's going to be like 45 minutes, going to go through all these frequencies up to hundreds of millions of cycles a second. And you're going to get stuff, theoretically, that like between bacteria and viruses and rickettsia and parasites and all kinds of things. I have personally had success with all that. And with the flu, with God knows what. But again, I don't want to get into that specific thing right now. We'll get into that in other videos. But I just wanted to acquaint you with how simple this is to operate and how effective. It's very powerful. The original Rife device that Dr. Rife actually made, that this is based on, back in the 30s, was very effective, and he found that it killed about 52 different diseases, which they clinically proved, according to USC, and two of those were the cancer at that time. There were 2 cancers at that time that he got. But he used a device which was basically sending out radio signals, and he didn't really understand how it worked because he was more of an optical physicist. He understood optics, but he didn't understand electromagnetism and so forth like Gary does, the guy that designed this. So he didn't understand that it was the resonant frequency it set up when it hit the dead skin layer of the body. These radio waves turned into basically ultrasound. So it's much more efficient to take the ultrasound and go directly. You get 100,000 times more efficiency. Now there's no danger in this. I mean, I've used this for years. I've had hundreds of people I know about that have used this device. Point is that it has thousands of times less intensity than the ultrasound that they use for pregnancies. To look at the newborn baby, the unborn baby. So basically, even though it's 1,000,000 times more intense than the Rife frequencies, the radio waves, it's still less, much less than they use for ultrasound scans. So there's no harm that can come to you. The human cell is completely different from the cell of a virus or a bacteria. The bacteria and the virus don't have the ability to regenerate quickly. Their cells are just destroyed. The cell wall just comes apart. And the human cell immediately regenerates when it gets hit with any kind of ultrasound. It just regenerates. So that's the advantage. That basically these microbes cannot develop a defense against this. This is why the drug companies are probably so anti-Rife and always have been, because, which is the FDA, is the drug companies, which is because it's so effective and because the germs can't develop a resistance to it, so you don't need new drugs all the time. And by the way, we're running out of drugs for these new infections. In fact, they don't have any for some of the more drug resistant, shall we say. So that's a scary thought. That's why we need things like this, and I hope to God that, you know, they'll see the light someday, or maybe walk in the light instead of in the darkness. But anyway, this is a sort of a start. I'm just trying to get you acquainted with this. It's called the Ultra 10A Rife Tech, or the Rife Tech, and you can find it at rifeenergymedicine.com, and I'll try to get a little more into the technicals. But if you want to read some good papers on it, simple papers, more complex than that, even with, you know, some physicists, if they want to study, it's got the electronics and math, the physics, but it's also got the simple explanation and examples. You can go to rifeenergymedicine.com and look at that, look at the articles. And so that's all for now, folks, and thanks for putting up with me.